So first off, I just want to say that I'm not going to go over the VR plant leaker again in this video, but if you haven't heard about the VR plant leaker, I strongly suggest you watch either my last video or the video before that. I usually don't heavily plug my old videos, but yeah, that person got everything they leaked to me right, and they told me they're going to tell me more information if they hear anything, so that's definitely a leaker to watch. So if you haven't heard about the VR plant leaker, again, go watch either my last video or the video before that and get caught up, because yeah, that's an exciting one. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about Banjo. So my last video was all about, tempering expectations, kind of not overhyping. Specifically, it was about Grant Kirkhope, the music composer for the Banjo Kazooie games, had tweeted something about not holding your breath for Banjo to be at E3 this year. Sort of just, don't overhype it. And it's sort of something that, everybody every year is always hopeful for something Banjo at E3. This year, it's, pretty big, and it seems like a major thing a lot of people are excited for or thinking might happen, but Grant Kirkhope was basically just saying, don't get overhyped, and I kind of went over how, personally, I don't really think Grant Kirkhope would be in the know since he hasn't worked for Rare in many, many years, and some other people who were associated with characters that got into Smash didn't know about that character. Steve Mails, the creator of K-Rool, didn't know about K-Rool coming to Smash, for instance, so Grant Kirkhope might not know anything about Banjo, whether that's a new Banjo IP or Banjo getting in Smash, anything like that. He's probably just as in the dark as we are. But even still, I took what he was saying, that don't hold your breath, to be, don't overhype. And that was pretty much the theme of the video, the whole hype responsibly thing. And also, I just wanted to be objective. So, Banjo is one of my most wanted characters. I have a huge bias towards Banjo. So with Grant Kirkhope saying something that was basically negative about Banjo's chances in E3, saying don't hold your breath for it to happen, I didn't want to ignore that. I wanted to make a video on that and, again, be objective, put all the information out there. Well, of course, right after I make that video, something super hype happens in Banjo's favor. So, yeah, hype responsibly, but, it's always on you how much you hype something. So I'm going to tell you guys new information about Banjo, and if you take it to hype yourself up, I'm going to hype myself up. If I get disappointed, hey, whatever, it's on me. And if you get disappointed and you hype yourself up, it's on you, but I'm going to give you the information, because something really hype just happened for Banjo. So over on Twitter, #BringBackBanjo wrote, heading into E3 season, and a picture of Banjo. Exquisite Gaming, completely unprompted, replied to this tweet, "We can't wait to bring back Banjo. Not long till we officially announce," and then posted this image of the back of a new Banjo figure. Now, this is part of the Cable Guys line of figures. They're these figurines that hold controllers. I've seen them hold the Nintendo Switch, but generally you're supposed to put your controller in their hands, and they're just this cool little thing to have on your desk that holds your controller. This was the first time anyone had heard about Cable Guys making a Banjo figurine, so yeah, this is another piece of Banjo-Kazooie merchandise. It goes along with the Totaku, and the first 4 figures Banjo statue, and like the pins that Rare showed. All the weird merchandise Banjo's been getting, considering he basically never gets anything, has happened in the last year or so, and once again we have Cable Guys making a Banjo figure. Now, people were discussing how having this Banjo merchandise is kind of showing us some new versions of Banjo, like a new kind of design of Banjo. The Totaku figure kind of had this design, the first 4 figure had this design, and from what we can tell of this new Cable Guys figure, it also has this similar kind of updated modern Banjo design, and of course there's no game for that to really go with yet. Now, the really interesting thing about the Cable Guys figures is that they tend to coincide with when stuff comes out for that character. Crash came out alongside Trilogy, Sonic came out alongside Mania, Spyro came out alongside Reignited, Iron Man came out alongside Endgame. So, of course, having the Banjo figure announced this close to E3, with so much hype and speculation about Banjo getting something new at E3, could mean he may end up just like those other characters, where some new game or something new with Banjo in it could happen and, continue this pattern. And now for the really hype part about this. @AndrewRayo tagged me in this post and said, "Have you seen this? It looks kind of like a newer Banjo design." I wrote back, "Similar backpack to the Totaku figure, which I think was a new backpack too, right?" Then @YokaiGuy123 wrote, "Don't they make these whenever a game character gets a revival, Sonic Mania, Crash, Spyro? It's an updated design of the bear." I responded to YokaiGuy123 with, "Yeah, I've heard they tend to coincide with stuff for the characters. Crash with Trilogy, Sonic with Mania, Spyro with Reignited, Iron Man with Endgame, so maybe Banjo-Kazooie with ... question mark?" And Exquisite Gaming actually replied to my post and said, "We couldn't possibly say." So did they just hint at something Banjo happening at E3? I mean, first off, they went out of their way to find a Banjo post that mentioned E3 and show that figure. That's the first time that figure's been shown, and they went out of their way to do it. It was completely unprompted. Then they ended up responding to what I wrote about how these characters coincide with game releases, and that was also unprompted. They didn't have to respond to that. I wasn't talking to them or asking them about it. I was just, in a conversation with people posting on it, and they still went out of their way to respond with, "We couldn't possibly say." Sounds like, honestly, something that someone under like a non-disclosure agreement or someone who's not allowed to say something but wants to hint about something could say. They're basically saying no comment, or I can't talk about that, or we couldn't say that, but in sort of a hinting, teasing kind of way. Now, I have absolutely no idea if these cable guy figure makers know anything about Banjo and any future titles or anything like Smash or anything like that. However, they do tend to make figures that coincide with game releases, and they openly, responded to me talking about that. So they do seem to be aware that they tend to make figures when a game comes out, and honestly, they might get commissioned by companies to do that. If they are aware that Banjo might show up at E3 in some form, they are kind of a sweet spot company, unlike, say, Nintendo or Rare or Microsoft, who would probably just be radio silent about anything Banjo. This is a company that may have been commissioned to get a figure, who may kind of know something and might have just been told, "Hey, don't say anything about any games or anything like that," but all they said was, "We couldn't possibly say." They're kind of skimming the line of, a non-disclosure agreement or not being able to talk about something, but they're the type of company that if they did hear something, might kind of want to hint at it, and they're not so, beholden the way that like Nintendo, Xbox, and Rare might be if they know like Banjo's coming to Smash, or Banjo's, Banjo-threeie's coming out, or there's a Banjo remaster, or whatever, new thing might be coming for Banjo at E3. Now, of course, the other possibility here is that they purposely looked for someone talking about Banjo at E3 and then decided to show the figure off then, and then responded to that, message I wrote about how figures tend to coincide with games and, new releases for those characters. And they may have done it because of marketing. E3 is really big right now. Obviously, Banjo is speculated a lot about for, a lot of stuff at E3, Smash, and possibly just getting a new game or anything like that. So they may have thought, how's the best way to show off this figure first? Find something about E3 and show it off there. It would be a little dishonest to them to kind of hint at that or do it that way, but that is how things have gone down. So either they are really hinting at Banjo at E3, or they went out of their way to put this Banjo figure in, some stuff about E3, some stuff about how their figures tend to coincide with games, and if it's all for marketing, it's a little cheap of them. If it's a hint, that's really cool of them. So in the end, I don't really know how to take this one. The whole "we couldn't possibly say" quote, I don't know. I don't know if this means like, Banjo's getting something at E3. Of course, if this is a hint towards something Banjo at E3, I don't know if that's a new Banjo game, Banjo Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie remastered or something, Rare Replay coming to Switch, or Banjo straight up in Smash. I have no idea what they're hinting at, but it does seem like they're hinting at something will happen for Banjo because they're, talking about or responding to me talking about how when they make, figures for characters, they tend to get games or, have something about them happen shortly afterwards. So I guess decide for yourself what you think about that one. Personally, it got me really hyped that something Banjo is probably going to happen at E3. Before I get off the topic of this, I just want to point this out because this was kind of neat. So over on Twitter, @GeorgeCrudo wrote, "On the subject of all this Banjo merch, @SeanHicksArt made this great point about the stitching on Banjo's shorts and backpack on all the merch designs and how it's similar to Smash. Could totally be a coincidence, but interesting nonetheless." And then there's a picture of Ness pointing out the detailed stitching in his backpack and on his shorts. And then there's a picture of the first 4 figure of Banjo, which also has very similar stitching detail on the shorts and the backpack, which could point to that design of Banjo being his Smash design. Considering we haven't gotten anything Banjo in many, many years, if Banjo does have a new Smash design, that would be his most recent, most updated design, and probably something figure companies would want to market him as. So at the end of the day, I still have no idea if Banjo is coming to Smash or if Banjo is going to be at E3 in any form, but yeah, this is a pretty good-sized piece of evidence, I'd say, in favor of Banjo having something at E3. And then before I end this video, Sabi posted this over on Twitter. They said, GameStop adds about 21 new NSW stock keeping units, NSW, all games, no consoles. If I had to guess, the $200 game is probably some sort of bundle or premium edition. Will post more images. And then Sabi posted, printed out on paper. This was sent in by a GameStop employee on my server. Reminder that SKUs are just placeholders for new games. So these don't tell us much, but are great for speculation. So this is a pretty common thing that happens with GameStop. Right before a bunch of games are announced, they usually get, untitled SKUs in their system, just placeholders waiting for when those games do get announced that they can add them in. And yeah, with E3 right around the corner, GameStop having a bunch of new games, apparently 21 listings, yeah, makes total sense. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Last time I was talking about how Grant Kirkhope was saying don't hold your breath for Banjo at E3, and then we have the Cable Guys figures kind of making me want to hold my breath for Banjo at E3. So I don't know what to think at this point. I'm hyped really hard, hoping Banjo shows up in some form, but I don't know that for sure. If you guys have any comments or thoughts about any of the stuff I talked about, leave them in the comments below. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. It really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.